They refuse to work, even if they have gone through college or a trade school. My worry is that they will never do anything with their lives despite their intelligence. How do I explain to them the importance of work and economic success? That's from Madison.
Hey, Madison, how you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm great.
Great, thanks for calling in. It's a great question. So let's pretend that I'm some pear-shaped guy in my early 20s,
Okay.
and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm
Okay.
twiddling my Xbox button, mashing games, and you come in, and what do you say to me? What's your big rant about why I should do something with my life?
What's my big rant?
Yeah, what would you say to them? If you could say without consequence, like imagine you're me and have no sense of consequences for
So
what you
I can
say.
say
What
whatever
would
I
you
want
say?
to the
Yeah,
person
whatever
that's
you want.
driving me crazy. Well, I would probably say, what are you afraid of? Because I really feel like it's this huge fear culture right now, and that my cousins are being raised in very kind of I would say like oppressive, crippling homes from mothers who are terrified to let their kids outside. And that's what I'm noticing more and more is that everybody I see, their mother or their father, they're really, really, what's that word? They coddle them. And so I think that, and they really push education, but they don't remind the kids that after college, you actually have to work. So they'll go through and then they're like, oh, what do I do now? I mean, and I would tell them, what are you afraid of? I really think that it's fear that is causing this. And I would try to understand what their fear is and maybe come at it from an empathetic angle and then kind of tough love because I feel like these people are just really scared.
Why do you think they're scared? What's the evidence for that? You could be right. I just want to make sure I know where you're coming from.
Okay, I'm trying to think of like, okay, this is a specific thing. I have a cousin who is 21. She's a girl. She's never been on a date. She's too anxious to go to a classroom because she's too anxious to be around people because she was homeschooled.
Yeah, blah, blah,
She,
blah. I'm sorry. I've got to take issue with that causality. Because she was homeschooled, she's afraid to be around people. It's
no, no, no,
homeschooling is
no.
not the key factor there. There's
Oh,
many,
no,
many
no, no. I was
homeschooled kids who have great
homeschooled.
social skills.
I was homeschooled. No, no, no. I don't think it's the homeschooling
Okay.
specifically.
I just
I
wanted
think
to
it's
make
the way
sure
she was.
that we
No,
don't
no,
get those
yes.
comments, because we
No,
will.
no,
Even
yes,
okay.
absolutely. Please, I want to clarify that. It's the way she's being homeschooled. She was homeschooled. She was she was kept in. She wasn't allowed around a lot of people. She was kind of kept in her circle, and that's it. So she never experienced different types of people, is my point. Like she never had to go through people being mean to her or, making a rude comment. Like she never really had to deal with things that, make you upset. It's kind of like she was in a safe space. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Even now,
Yeah.
even now at 21, she's still living in that safe space with her family.
Right.
And she does school online, and she said, I don't want to be around anybody. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be around people.
And what do you think
And
of her parents?
I think they're very they coddle her, and I mean her four siblings. They're the same way, and they're very very religious, which I think might add to it as well. I would say almost to like an extreme extent, Southern Baptist,
Hmm.
and very. It's just very. I just everybody seems to be anxious. Can I give you another example?
Yeah.
My mom has a friend whose daughter can't leave the house and quit high school because of anxiety. I mean, that's fear, right? Is that just fear for the world?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Um,
I I mean, isn't that troubling? Because that really concerns me when I'm hearing these things. And I'm hearing it a lot. And she's 18. And it's like, I'm not hearing people excited for life at 18 like I was. I'm hearing, oh my God, I don't want to leave the house. I mean, how do you try to get somebody out of that?
Well, you can't, right?
Right.
I mean, you can't. What is it that you want to sell them about being out in the world? What's the benefit of being out in the world?
Well, I think I might have a bias because I actually have an illness that keeps me home. And I see these people that are perfectly able to go out and do things I wish I could do.
Oh, it's
And
like,
maybe,
have you ever read Ken Kesey's novel, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
I haven't read it, but I know the general thing.
Well, it's a good movie too, but this guy, Randall Patrick McMurphy, RPM, he's basically locked in a psych ward, and
Right.
eventually he finds out that the other people are in there by choice and can walk out whenever they want. And he's like shocked and appalled that
Right.
they would be there by choice when he hates to be there,
Right.
and takes on the establishment. And that's, I guess, the feeling. Like, if you don't have a choice to go, and other people do but won't leave, it's like, well, you're not locked in. Why the hell are you still here?
Exactly. And, and here's the thing. I've been sick since I was 9 years old. It got better, and then when I was 18, I had a stroke, and it's like an ischemic event. So in my eye, essentially like a stroke in my eye. It's hard to describe, but I had my eyes were crossed for 6 months, and I've had seizures and severe migraines since. It's been 6 years. I still tried to work.
Yeah.
I still tried multiple times because I was raised that you don't give up.
Right.
And I feel like the young people are giving up before they even start.
Right.
And that breaks my heart because, and I might also not even be able to have children. So I'm like, damn it, I want to be able to raise a kid that's not like that. You know what I mean? And then maybe I have a lot of like internal kind of anger for it and suppressed like jealousy maybe. But like my cousin went to hair school, which is what I wanted to do. And now she's dog sitting and living at her parents' house rent free. And me and my husband are doing it alone on our own, and we're doing great. And I'm sick. And I'm like, what are these parents doing?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm very sorry about your ailments. Those are serious and significant, and I assume at times debilitating. And I really just wanted to express massive sympathy for
Oh, thank
all
you.
of that. That is a cross and a half to carry, and I'm very sorry about all of that.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's been hard. I actually got addicted to painkillers because of my chronic pain. And about a year and a half ago, I was like, fuck this. And I just literally stopped because I was ruining my life, and I haven't had any problems since. I just made the decision and quit.
Oh, good for you.
And I've had to live with much worse pain, but I tell you, I was insane, Stefan. I was insane. I got put into a hospital because I was just going insane, and it was all the medications they had me on. And this is why I'm like so anti-medication at this point because they had me on the highest doses of Prozac, Abilify, painkillers, nerve relaxers and everything. And I was kind of out of control, and I really blame a lot of people for not helping me. Because
Do you mean people in the hospital or others?
In my family, I don't know how they didn't see that I wasn't out of my mind.
Right.
Because there was genuinely, like, the medications were genuinely affecting my behavior. And for about 2 years, I was out of my mind. And I suffered a lot. So I think I have a lot of, like, fire in me about all of that. So when I see people around me that are perfectly capable and have ambition, and they're smart, and they have everything they want, and they don't take it's like they have the freedom, but they take advantage of it.
Well, yeah, or they don't take advantage of it in a way. And the image that I get is like, the image that I get, Madison, is like a starving kid in the gutter, watching helplessly as fat people throw out food perfectly good food.
Aren't I so like bright and sunshiny?
No, no, listen, this is important stuff. I mean, this is important stuff. This question of motivation, this question of what does it take to go out there and live your life?
Well, and another thing is like I had a very terrible childhood, and like I started listening to you about 3 months ago, I'd say, and oh my God, just resonate with you so much about, parents and stuff like that. So I just and they've had perfect childhoods. I know this is like internal jealousy, but it's kind of good to get that out. But it's like I don't understand how I can have that motivation when I had everything go wrong and they have zero when they had everything go right. Like, isn't that just backwards? I
Well,
don't
no,
know.
this is a big question. It's a big question.
Right.
And the people who had the most idyllic childhoods in many ways in the West were those who grew up in, and they produced the hedonism of the 60s and the nihilism of the 70s, the materialism of the 80s.
Absolutely.
There is, and I mean, I'm aware of this as a parent. What does it mean to give my daughter a good childhood? Well,
Right.
I had a bad childhood, which gave me, as it gave you, particular strengths.
Right.
And so if you give a really good childhood to someone, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's a very, very tough question. Is it saying, well, I don't want my child to exercise too much because, that makes them tired? Well, that means they don't have any muscles.
Right.
So what is it that builds the musculature of our personalities? Opportunity, yes, for sure, but is it not also resistance?
Absolutely. Like you have to train mentally as well, and people forget that. Like I think social anxiety is probably a big factor as well. I really do believe that. And I personally believe it's social media. I think social media is the biggest problem.
It's terrible for
Um,
people.
because these are the kids that have grown up with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with it, but I wasn't like obsessed with it. You know what I mean? I never was. I was on it and I loved it, but I was more into like writing and stuff back when I was a teenager. God, that was so long ago. I can't believe that. But my young cousins grew up with this, and they're selfie obsessed, they're narcissists. It's all about, it drives me crazy seeing that, because it's like I feel like that's fake happiness. I feel like it's just fake. Everything is so plastic, and they all look the same, they all act the same, and it's like the brainwashing is working even on people that have everything that you think they would think opposite. I don't know.
Well, it's a big problem. So Facebook, Twitter, other social media sites can damage emotional well-being, particularly of heavy users, particularly younger people.
Oh, they are. And then my mom's friend, her daughter refuses to go. She's the one that won't leave the house, but she's on Instagram with all of her friends having a great time at home. And it's like, I look at that and I'm like, well, I thought you like can't leave the house, you can't do anything, but you'll go out to Starbucks with your friends. You see what I mean?
Right.
It's like, and her mom's falling for it, and her mom's letting her do it. And her mom knows deep down that she's faking, because her husband won't do anything either. So it's like, there you go right there. The mother is enabling it and would never admit that, but she's allowing it, so it will continue and continue. And I think this is what is happening, is enablement from the parents and social media. I
Right.
think those two things are huge impacts on young people. And I'm just sad to see that. And I wish there was something that we could do to discourage it, but people kind of have their opinions now on social media. Everyone's kind of obsessed at this point.
Right. So it is pretty addictive, right? So some researchers have found that social media use is more desirable for their minds and nervous systems than tobacco and alcohol. It's very, very addictive. And
yeah, I read that.
Yeah, everyone gets a little dopamine. Oh, someone liked someone you follow, and
Yeah.
and of course the comparison, right? Oh, my life isn't as cool as everyone else's because they're all posting. Nobody posts, oh, look, I got a pimple this morning, right? Everyone posts like their cool stuff, and everyone promotes all of their successes, and everything's great, and it also tempts you to stay in touch with people. Otherwise, you wouldn't, right? Because the cost of keeping in touch with them is pretty low. And, you break up with someone, you normally you just separate, right? Tear the page in two. But now if you want, you can watch everyone move along. And of course, if people have made mistakes in social media, like they published or posted stuff that, potential employers might have a look at, might review if they've gotten into trouble that way, then it can be pretty tough for that. And it's bad. Now, again, there's pluses and minuses and blah-de-blah. If you have a life, like I have to do some for my job, right? So that's, right? Right. But so if you have a life, then I guess it's part of your life. But if you don't have a life, it can become your life. And then you feel, it's like, social media is like the video game for chicks. Right. Because like men feel like they're achieving something because I posted something and people like it. I've achieved something. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. The fact that people like your picture of what you cooked is not an achievement in the real world. Sorry?
And don't forget the amount of, like, I've seen so many times on Twitter, like somebody will post something that's totally false, right? And it gets retweeted. How many? 15,000 times? And there's 15,000 people that now that think they know something. Right. That's also a problem.
Right.
So, I see that happening more and more and more. And it's like, honestly, I feel like the world like fell into some weird chaotic wormhole. Yeah. And just everything flipped on its head. Like up is down, east is west. Like that's how it feels. And it's like everything's just going insane. I mean, and it happened really fast. Like I feel like I'm just noticing it more and more and more. I really pick out patterns a lot and people. I read faces a lot. I'm really good at that because when I was a child, I would just kind of sit in the background and shut up because I was told to. So I did. So I'd watch people's faces and I learned about people. And so now I can kind of just see the suffering on everybody's faces. And I see, my 21-year-old cousin who has never even had a boyfriend, never even thought about a boyfriend. And she lives with her brother. They share an apartment, they share a truck. And I'm like, are you going to live with your brother the rest of your life? And just do online school? Like, what's next? What's your ideas? What dreams do you have? Do you want to travel? Do you want to see something? Like, what's your dream job? And they have nothing to answer with. They don't know. No. They've never thought about it.
And the more you scroll forever on Facebook, the bigger risk your mental health is facing. People spend an average of 50 minutes a day, Facebook, Instagram, messengers, and so on. So over the course of a person's life, that's 5 years and 4 months on social media.
Oh, my God.
And then they spend 7 years and 8 months watching television.
Doesn't that just seem pathetic?
Yeah.
Like, we are the apex predator. We are like we are the fucking bomb.
Right.
Like look where we got. And it just seems like you said, you said it, nihilistic. It's like everyone got possessed by Friedrich Nietzsche, okay? Like, that's how I feel right now. Right. But it is a nihilism and also a hedonism.
Yes.
There's hedonism as well that is spreading.
And it changes your personality.
Absolutely.
So there's a 2017 study published in Behavioral Brain Research, looked at a bunch of participants over a 5-week period and found that a higher daily frequency of checking Facebook was, quote, robustly linked, end quote, with smaller gray matter in the nucleus accumbens, which is located in the area of the hypothalamus. This is one area of the brain associated with rewards, and research shows, quote, has been implicated in aspects of human drug addiction, including the ability of drug-paired cues to control behavior, end quote. So there's a theory, that's a theory, right? Why some people say checking Facebook is addictive. It's a way of distracting yourself from your life and of not getting important things done. You think you're doing something, You think you're achieving something, and you get those little dopamine rewards as if you are, but you're not. And again, I'm on Twitter. I have a Facebook account and all that, but that's kind of the job. I don't sort of sit there and say, well, I could do a show or I could scroll through. The other thing too is that, I don't know if this is the case with your relatives or friends, Madison, but exposure to opposing ideas is foundational to building mental strength. Just like exposure to opposing weights is how you build your muscles. There's a great interview Jordan Peterson did with a woman from Channel 4 News. He's over in the UK at the moment on his book tour. And she says to him, well, why should your freedom of speech be more important than someone's right to not be offended? And he says, well, because in order to think, you have to be willing to offend and be offended. And he said, you're risking offending me by even asking me that question. You don't care about my rights, so you obviously prefer freedom of speech over someone being offended, because I could be upset with what you're saying. I'm paraphrasing, and it was a kill shot, of course, and it was a great moment. But of course, if you're in social media, you can tailor your entire existence so that you never encounter robustly argued opposite perspectives, and that makes you weak, and that makes you fragile. Chambers. Yeah, the echo chambers. They've done studies on this in Twitter, like the left and the right. There's very little that travels between them. Now, I have to read a lot of mainstream media as part of my job, and so I am robustly exposed to alternative and opposing viewpoints and arguments I consider incorrect, and I'll do entire article rebuttals and get into the skin of people's arguments and so on. And if you don't do that, you become weaker and you become tied. The echo chamber becomes a prison. You can't go outside of it, because then you have no idea who you are anymore.
Well, and then you are vulnerable and terrified because you've been in the blanket and the comfort, just bloated with this narcissism is what these people look like to me. They're just, you're in one group and that's it. And it's so tribal and it's so easy to see. This is what I don't understand, is how people don't see this. Like, it's right in front of everybody's face and they're just like, no, that's not real. No. It's okay. And it's like, no, you can clearly see people are separating, people are getting, people are fighting, race war, gender war, everything. And you can clearly see echo chambers are forming, but everyone's like, whatever, okay. And it's like obviously dangerous. You can see in history, anytime people start dividing, shit hits the fan, essentially.
Right.
Like, this is ridiculous. And I feel like, and if you really think about it, all of that contributes in the end to how people grow up.
Well, okay, so let me tell you a little bit about why this is a challenge. So there are people who have like real anxiety issues and lots of sympathy, therapy, whatever helps them with that. I'm not a fan of medication at all, but whatever helps. I think we're on the same page as far as that goes.
I have OCD, so anxiety is part of my life, so I can tell you, it's hell.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's a battle, right? But there are people who use their anxiety as a weapon to resist risk. I tell you, who's a genius about this? My daughter. Genius about
I believe
this.
It.
So as far as like knowing when it's genuine and knowing when it's fake,
right?
You should hear her mock a kid who fake cries. Who's doing it for attention or doing it to get another kid in trouble or whatever. Like, she's just like, boom, right? But if there's genuine crying, like she's over there helping, she like, boom, she like knows. She knows the true from the fake. And if people are, fake scared, she's like, oh, just do it. You know what I mean?
That's good. She can read people.
But if it's like, if it's real scared, she's talking them through it. She's really great. She has no patience. And this is just, she has her own personality, her own character. This is, I can take credit for a little bit, but not much. Mostly my credit is just staying out of the way and maybe sanding a little bit of the edges.
You can take plenty of credit. I'm sure you had a lot to do with it.
Genetically, not so much. She is who she is. And, but she's very good at figuring, and she's actually teaching me the true from the fake. She's better at it sometimes than I am, because I'm prone to a little bit too much sympathy. I'm prone to a little bit too much empathy. So she's good, and Mike's good at this as well, beating back my Hallmark card over bear hug sentimentality. It's important.
He seems so nice, though.
Sorry?
I said he seems so nice, though.
Seems.
Seems.
Vicious.
Yes.
Vicious. No, it's helpful. You know, we all have people who need pushbacks on sentimentalities or issues that we have where it's hard. I forget wrongdoing. You know, if someone wrongs me, like literally like 3 days later, I'm like, hey, how's it going? You know, and I have people in my life who are like, remember that person? They did all this shitty stuff to you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. I live in a bit of a blur of it now.
Sometimes you have to, like, I call it picking your battles. Like, you know, are you going to sit there and be miserable over this forever, or are you going to let it go and move on with your life and focus on the positive?
Well, yeah, but you don't want to forget. If you're back in the orbit of someone, you don't want to forget. Doesn't mean you don't forgive, but you don't want to forget.
You never forget. You're always cautious after that point. But, you know, you can't let it eat you alive either.
Well, that's a bit of a false dichotomy, but okay, if you put it that way, I agree, Madison. You should not let things eat you alive, because who's going to advocate for that, right? Okay. So as far as, so here's the problem, right? So anxious people who are aversive to risk, the problem is, so if they're genuinely anxious, then what they should be doing is overcoming their anxiety in order to embrace risk, like you're doing, right?
Right.
Now, if, on the other hand, they're using their anxiety to avoid risk, then they need to be made more anxious. I don't know if you heard, this is probably maybe 2 years ago. I remember this call very clearly. I remember most calls very clearly. And I remember there was this guy, I think he was in his 40s, and he was living in his brother's garage and so on. And he's like, I don't want to panic about my life. And I'm like, you kind of do.
Right.
You really kind of do want to. Now would be an excellent time to panic, because you're in your 40s and you're living in your brother's garage. And so there is probably something on the part of the parents, I would guess, and let me know if this is wrong. There's probably something on the part of the parents, Madison, where they say they try to keep the anxiety level on their kids as low as humanly possible.
Absolutely, I
Bad
agree.
idea.
Yes.
Bad idea. You got to turn it up. You got to crank it up. Because sometimes only fear dislodges you from fear. Right? So if you're in a plane, the plane's going to go into the side of a mountain, you'll jump. Now, you're scared of jumping, but you jump to avoid the even worse fate of going into the side of a mountain. If you jump, maybe you got a chance, right? So sometimes fear, you dislodge yourself from fear because of a greater fear. This is what I'm going to talk about with assertiveness later with Christian. But so sometimes it's like, get out. Get out of my house. You have 3 days. Now that's going to make the kids very anxious, which means, but if they can't stay, and I think that, you know, maybe if you're like Anna Freud and you're helping your father with his papers or something like that, then maybe you could stick around. You know, my daughter takes over my show or whatever, who knows, right? But but for the most part, like, get out. It's like an exorcism. It's like, you're an adult, get out. And then go live your life and go be anxious and go deal with your, like, just go be a human being in the world. And you'll be amazed at what kind of strength you have. But if everything's around, well, my children have an anxiety level of 7, so I don't want it to go higher. So I'm going to not nag them. I'm going to try and make their life as comfortable as possible so they don't feel too anxious. It's like, nope, bad idea. You give Novocaine to the guy with the toothache, it just gets worse. You know, that pain is what drives you to the dentist. Right. So, and you know, people, I'm scared of the dentist. Is like, well, are you more scared of swallowing your own bacteria and having your heart explode? I would hope so. So sometimes pushing people into fear has them recoil and overcome the fear. Like I remember when I was a kid, I have had, I said a couple of, you know, like most kids, every now and then you have a couple of stitches, right? So one time I was walking in the Don River and I stepped on this godforsaken, it's probably cleaned up a bit now, but it was a godforsaken old wreck of broken metal and stuff. And I stepped on something, had 6 stitches on my feet. Another time I cut my knee and the doctor put in a bunch of stitches. And I was very nervous about getting the stitches taken out. Didn't turn out to be that painful, but he stepped on my foot.
Oh.
Right. So he stepped on my foot hard, took the stitches out, and I was like, hey, they're out. So sometimes something else to distract you is better. But of course, expecting people to come up with that themselves, if they haven't already done it by the time they're in their late teens, early 20s, it's not going to happen. Listen, I didn't want to get a job when I was 11. I didn't at all. I have a family I knew when I was a teenager. One of the kids was he was going to be an intellectual, don't you know? So the story of the kids.
I love intellectuals.
Yeah. So his brother had a story that he would tell from time to time with amiable bitterness, and he would say, I was never going to be an intellectual, so I got all the job of gardening. And so I'm sitting there, it's like 9,000 degrees. I'm cutting the hedge, and it's really hot, and I'm thirsty, and I got to finish this before the end of the day. And I look over and I see my brother, reading von Mises by the pool. And, because he's going to be the intellectual, and I'm like, I'm like the chore monkey or something like that. And
The chore monkey.
yeah, this is the way things sort out sometimes. And
well, I tell you, I had my first job at 14 in my mom's salon. I folded towels and I swept the shop and got paid a little bit. But, I mean, I didn't have a choice. My mom said, come on, you got to learn how to work. I did my laundry by myself. I pretty much took care of myself from 12 on. So I guess I'm kind of just used to doing shit on my own.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time understanding other people. I don't know why. I don't understand why people don't get, how to do that.
Oh, do you mean how to run their own lives? Yes.
I don't understand how people, have to call and get their mom's approval at 22 years old or 21 or, what? No. Can't you make your own decisions? Why do you have to call your mommy?
Right.
Am I being harsh? But
no,
it's
a
single decision.
It's selfishness on the part of the parents.
Exactly, and see, that's what I think. I think it's disgusting and abusive.
Yeah, because they want to feel needed. A lot of times, it comes out of parents who don't get along. Parents who don't get along don't want the kids to break orbit because then they're just stuck with each other.
I see your point.
And another thing too, when talking to my daughter about sugar and about we think of the 18-year-old Isabella or the 20-year-old Isabella. My job is to deliver you to the 18 or 20-year-old Isabella with good teeth, good muscle mass, good bones, and healthy. And I said, if you don't want to, it's cold, right? So sometimes it's tough to get her out and exercise and all. And I said, but, if you think of that girl, twice your age, or that young woman twice your age, what does she want? Does she want you to sit on the couch, or does she want you to go and exercise? Does she want you to have sugar? And my daughter's great with sugar for the most part. It's fine. But part of that is simply because just reminding her of the future. And if you don't have a sense of the future, it's hard to be motivated about anything, because you've got to look down that tunnel of time and say, okay, if I photocopy this day, where is it going to take me? If I spend, an hour watching TV, an hour on Facebook, 2 hours playing video games, and then I have a nap, if I keep doing that, where does it take me in 10 years? Whereas if I do whatever, right?
Yeah, nobody has long-term vision anymore. It's all about right this second, not about what might happen later.
And we have this wonderful ability to portray a false self through the internet that really feels like something's happening, like something's being achieved, and or to do it through video games, and it's sort of like pornography. Our inner systems don't really know the difference between fake and real.
Exactly. Your brain is just taking in the impulse and the I'm so sorry, I can't think of the word. Not impulse.
The feedback? The image?
Yes. Yeah, it's just taking in what you're getting from your senses, and that when you're watching pornography, your brain doesn't know, you're just taking it in, and that's where pornography becomes addictive, just like social media.
Your brain thinks there's an orgy and you should probably get some so that your genes reproduce. It doesn't know about pixels or anything like that.
I'm so sorry. My stroke, sometimes my brain is all, I can get a little
Madison,
tripped up my
you're
words.
doing fantastically. Absolutely wonderful. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know.
See, and that's when you have
I'm
something
bald.
like that, you kind of have a natural like guilt, like, oh my God, I sound stupid. Oh no, oh no,
Yeah,
like.
yeah. No, it's great. So as far as,
Oh, can I say one more thing
please.
about being afraid? I don't remember where I heard it, but it really inspired me. I heard, the only time that you get to be brave is when you're terrified. That's the only time you get to be brave, and isn't it better to be brave than scared? And I think that's a really good point, that there is a positive in being scared. Just like you said, being scared is what pushes you eventually into something. Like, no hard work goes unrewarded.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
what my
no,
mom
there
always told me.
virtues are needed because of the undertow of immediate preference. Like if you tell a
Right,
lie, it's because you want comfort in the moment rather than intimacy in the future.
right,
And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, courage is a virtue that is necessary because we have fear, and discipline is a virtue because we have inertia and all of that. So
right.
I don't know exactly what I would say because I don't know much about these people, but
Yeah,
I would say something like this, that I mean, to me, it's a big perspective, but it can help a lot. So if you look across the entirety of the universe, I have absolute certainty that there's life out there in the universe, but we don't know where the hell it is. It's a hell of a long way away, and the chance of it being anywhere close to our level of development is almost infinitesimally small. Like in Star Trek, there are the Klingons and the Romulans and the humans, and they're all roughly
yeah,
about the same level of development, despite the fact that the universe is billions and billions of years old. You just have
right.
But so it's not going to be like that. They're either going to be like, we're going to find microbes, or we're going to find intergalactic space lords, masters of time, space, and dimension, who also want to go to Paris.
Interdimensional lizards.
There you go, interdimensional lizards. And so I would say, but if you look across the universe, it's mostly empty. God is inordinately fond of two things, hydrogen and beetles. And it's full of nothing. And even where there is stuff, it's stupid stuff. It's just rocks
Right.
and burning balls of nuclear fission. And it's just, it's either empty or stupid. And more rare than the stars in the night sky is the coalition of ancient star stuff known as human consciousness. Your little couple of pounds of matter in your matrix skull prison are the most improbable, incandescent collection of crap turned to consciousness that can conceivably be imagined, and it is incredibly, incredibly rare that you should have this gift. To spurn this gift, to not make maximum use of this gift, is an insult to every part of the universe that can't take an insult because it has no consciousness. It's an insult. A comet, can you imagine? You're a comet. Hey, here I go. Round again. Woohoo! I'll be back in 88 years. Haley out. Like, how boring is that? Wow, sure is dark out
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah. I love the nothing. The silence is
Yeah. Oh, look.
happening.
Some more black stuff that ain't
I'm
there.
looking into the abyss, and
Yeah.
it's looking back at me.
That's terrible. Oh, a couple of times, every 88 years, I get a little bit of a tail. It's very exciting.
You get some tail.
Yeah, you get some tail. You get some tail. That's right, and it's big tail too, like sperm whale tail.
Uh-oh, I don't know about big tail.
Yeah, that's right. Haley's Comet, the ultimate chubby chaser. But so there's all of this crazy stuff going on. Well, think of a snowflake. A snowflake. Yeah. I'm a crystalline structure that's unique, but I have no concept of it because I'm just frozen water. Here I go, flop into the snow, and I'm plowed under by a passing truck. And then I melt next day. That's it. No consciousness, nothing.
But the question is, no consciousness, but does it have a purpose?
No purpose. And you get to be in your brain rather than one of the billions of gut bacteria.
Absolutely.
My job is to turn food into non-food. My job is to stimulate you to eat carbs because I like carbs. I mean, that's it. You get to live in somebody's lower intestine for, I don't know, a day and a half, and then you're dead. And then you get to make more and you don't even enjoy the sex. I mean, like, good God. Good God. I mean, everything that's not us sucks.
Oh my goodness, thank you. That's what I'm saying about apex predator. Everyone always gets mad at me for saying that. I'm serious. Like, I'll be in a conversation, I'm like, I don't really care. Like, humans are apex predators. We're the boss of the earth. And everyone's like, oh my God, you don't care about the environment. And I'm like, no, I do, but we are the apex predators. We are the best. We know what we are, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I mean, they probably don't like the word predator, but we are,
Well, we are
the
predators,
most, we are the most glorious things in existence. And
absolutely.
to sit there wasting your life, taking photos of your fucking food.
Thank you.
Somebody liked a picture of my asparagus. It's like, did you open a restaurant? No? Shut up.
Yeah, and you don't even get an orgasm out of that. What's the point? You get one like. Wow.
I'm probably sure someone does, but I don't want to know. And I certainly don't want to see photos. I bet you there's people on Twitter who have the job looking at asparagus porn, but that ain't me. And I don't want to hear about it.
Sir, you are right.
No, and this is the thing too. Here's another thing too on social media. Hey, look, everybody, I bought something. Did you make it? No. Then shut up. I bought a big TV. Do you know how it's made? Do you know any engineering? Did you make anything? No. Shut up. You went out, you put some plastic, you went into debt probably, and someone delivered something to your house. Ooh, yep. You're a genius. I bought a book. Did you write one? No. Then shut up. I don't care. I don't care. Did you make something? No. I took a photo of someone who made something. Then shut up. You're not even the shadow cast by the statue. Oh.
It's like we're celebrating the small things. And, I mean, they're too small. What? We're celebrating, like you said, like asparagus. And instead of celebrating big achievements, like, shouldn't you be focusing on something else? And, of course, that's fun once in a while. Like, there's nothing wrong with, I'm a believer in everything in moderation, but if it's your entire life and it's affecting your life to the point where it's video games or drugs or anything that you have nothing in your life.
I had sex with someone.
Right.
Yeah. So did about 1 billion bunnies in the woods. Good job. Yeah. That is the foundation of civilization. Banging. Excellent. Because no other species ever did that before. It's not unique for you at all. I did rubby bits and had a nap.
I know. I'm really concerned for people who like to post that they pooped or that they had sex or the after sex selfies, which I have friends who have sent to me. Like, on Snapchat, and I'm like, what? Who does this? Like, who does that, Stefan? Who sends a picture of that to their friends?
Me in the wet spot.
Who posts that on Facebook?
I achieved something.
I know.
I achieved a nap and an STD transmission fulcrum.
I'd give her a thumbs up if she told me, but I really don't give a shit about, seeing... the afterglow. I'm happy for you, but I'm okay.
Yeah. No, it's very sad.
The culture we have.
It's very sad. And of course, eating and screwing and buying and eating some more and having a poop, it's really not that interesting. It's really, there's no book of excrement in the Bible, right? There's none of that. No. Okay, there was the Last Supper. I don't care what Jesus said. I don't care about the betrayal. I don't care about the prayers. I don't care about anything intellectual that happened on the Last Supper, but what was on the menu? That's what I want to know. I want to see pictures of the food. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Birds do it, bees do it, even educated fleas do it. It's like amoeba screw and reproduce. It's really not that interesting. Now, go make a painting. Go build a business. Go make something. That even if it's nothing that important, go make something. Go build something. Go contribute something to the world.
I think there's a lot of boredom too, and this idea that just because we have everything like electronics and all this stuff, that's fulfilling us. See, we have great lives, and we do have privileged lives. Everyone in America, and but we're still bored because we're not fulfilled.
Right.
I really don't believe that.
So yeah, I would say that regret is a very tricky demon in the world, because regret, it's like the tiger that crawls up in the grass and you can't see it, and then by the time you see it, it's too late. That's like regret. Regret's like a predator that hides in distraction. And regret gets closer and closer and closer, and it's quiet, and it sleeps, and it seeps, and it drifts through like smoke, and then it takes you. And people ward off You know, the anxiety to me, a lot of it is to do with just watering. I don't know if you've ever had it, Madison, where there's some connection. You've been kind of resisting it. Maybe you haven't really thought about it that much. Someone puts 2 and 2 together in your brain and you get that incandescent 4.
Yes.
And a lot of anxiety is about making sure, keeping those connections at bay. Like,
Right.
if you're wasting your life, if you're doing stupid shit, if you're not achieving anything, if you're not adding to your sexual market value, if you're not doing anything to continue the species or add to human culture or human civilization or human thought, if you're just a parasite on the excessive earning potential of your parents, well, deep down, you know all of that. You know all of that. And what's
Exactly.
terrifying is somebody's going to put that plug in that socket. And then it's going to be like, oh my fucking God. It's like in The Simpsons, the comic book guy. The comic book guy.
I've never seen The Simpsons.
So
I'm not kidding.
in The Simpsons, there's a nuclear weapon, I think it is, that's about to hit Springfield. And the comic book guy who's been obsessed with the minutiae and trivia of comic books and has been sneering and bullying based upon other people's lack of knowledge. Like, he hasn't written any comics. He just has a comic book store, I think it is, and just snarls at everyone who doesn't know things and all of that.
Oh,
And just
yeah,
before
I've
the
never
bomb
seen
goes
it.
off, he just looks at the ground and says, I have wasted my life. Boom. He gets that, the plug goes in, right? And I remember that. It's a very, very
Right.
strong moment, because there will come a time, and the demon of regret, man, once that demon gets into your system, it will only come in and plug that in when it's too late. Regret is a great danger, that regret will only hit you when it's too late. Like, you realize how much you love that person. Everyone has the one who got away, right? How much you love that person after you drive them away. Boom! It's too late. It's too late. It's too late. Oh, I should quit smoking. Why? I got lung cancer. It's too late.
Absolutely.
So I think
literally
getting
just went
people to
through
freak
that.
out is important.
I just went through that when it came to the medications, because when I quit the medications and I came out of it and the plug went in and I realized how I'd been living and what I'd been thinking, and I was like, oh my God, I have to change. I have to. I cannot live like that. I have an incredible husband and family around me that is very supportive and really helps me. I have a lot of charity, but I give back as much as I can, but I just, I wish more people would realize that, but they have nobody encouraging them like I did. I had my husband, who I've been with for 6 years, and he's never left my side, even at my worst. And he's still here with me because he knew it wasn't me. He knew it was the medications. And he's held my hand through it all. And nobody is helping these people either. But I have the argument in my head, like, wait a second, though. They're adults now. They need to be making their own decisions. But are they crippled now by anxiety to the point where they can't make those decisions? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that human beings can change a lot. And the problem is, as long as their parents, you see, you're going to have to provoke a lot of disruption in the family.
Right.
It's what Jesus said, I have come to set father against son, brother against brother. Because if the parents are enabling this distraction and dissociation from the world, if the parents are shielding their adult children from the need to have a life, then the parents are preying upon the children. They are vampirically exploiting the children. It's the parents who are unable to move on. And children always serve the parents. Now, if the parents don't want to give up being parents, it's really, really tough for the kids to break away. I mean, how many times you heard this story? You know, I was told, this is a Jesse Lee Peterson story, right? I was told my whole life. You're 16, you're 18, you're out of here.
Right.
I had to get ready for that, you know, and I had to get prepared for that. And I went and I did this. Now, if the parents aren't willing to give up being parents, and I've told my daughter repeatedly, my whole point as a father is to stop being a father. I say, I'll still be around, I'll be an advisor maybe, I'll be a friend and all that, but the whole point is for me to stop parenting you. And so I want to transfer as much responsibility to you as possible, as reasonable and so on, so that you learn all of that good stuff. And if the parents won't let go of being parents, in other words, if they need the kids around because the parents have nothing to go for, nothing to live for, the parents have no next phase of your life. The parenting, 20, 25 years, okay, that's a big chunk of your adult life. That might be half your adult life, but it's still only half. What are you going to do afterwards? What are you going to do
Right.
after you've been a parent? The empty nest syndrome, the depression, the anxiety. It's the parents who are probably keeping their anxiety at bay by hanging on to the children and thus not getting on to the next phase in their life. And so the lack of motivation and ambition on the part of the parents to do something other than being parents means that the kids can't leave, in a sense. I mean, you can say, well, they can, but kids will always obey their parents. And if there's an unconscious demand that they stay around and stay dependent, it's very
Yes.
tough. I've never seen a kid successfully escape that. I mean, I'm sure they could, maybe with knowledge, but you got
husband
to
did.
hit the parents.
My husband did. He separated from abusive parents.
But were they clingy parents?
They were intrusive, very intense.
Right.
About
So they
it.
made him uncomfortable, but these are the parents who pay the
Extremely.
bills and make it comfortable. They're the amniotic sac parents. They are the enabling, soft, gooey, quicksand, sticky moat around the kids kind of parents. Those parents are tough
I
to get
see
away
what
with.
you mean. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I would call them different than that.
You ever sat in a bath so long? You ever do this? I'm a bath guy myself. I love the soup called me, but you sit in a bath, you're reading something or whatever, and your bath just gets cold and cold and cold, and it's like, oh, I got to get out. I got to get out. Now, if your bath were to stay magically the right temperature, you wouldn't really get out, right? I mean, obviously you would eventually, but there would not be that, getting kind of cold, got to get out of the bath.
It's like that. If you put a frog in boiling water, he'll jump right out, and then if you put it in and warm it up slowly, it'll just boil to death. Is that a word? Boil to death.
Yeah. So I mean, you see this with single moms who, particularly with their sons, the sons become the pseudo husband, and what happens is the single mom can't attract a good guy because she's a single mom, and also because she's got this weird Hamlet thing going on with her son. And then the son grows up, and the son doesn't date, and the son kind of hangs out with the mom, and the mom doesn't move on, and they end up in this sick spiral of timelessness. And then what happens is eventually the mom dies, the son's in his 40s, and he's kind of crippled because he's not gone out and started his own life and so on. And it's tough. When parents are clingy, it's very hard to get free. It's the difference between, if you walk on hot sand, you're like, jump, 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 the Dudley Moore in 10, right? You jump, jump, jump on the hot sand, and you get to your blanket. But quicksand is a different matter, right? Quicksand is really tough to get out. All right, listen, I got to move on to the next caller.
Oh, of course.
But I appreciate the question. I know we jumped all over the place, but...
No, that was so much fun. This was great. Thank you so much.
All right. I wish you the very best of health, Madison. I hope it clears up over time, and thanks so much for your call.
Oh, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.